You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Right now, we're less than 24 hours away from an election that will decide the ideological lean of the state Supreme Court. We'll hear from both state party chairs on what they believe is at stake.
And a tough loss for the Brewers at their home opener, but our crews found, despite some disappointment, there's no shortage of fans out there.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Live at 4. Hope you had a good weekend and hope you enjoyed the Brewer game here on News 3. Not the greatest ending, but the home opener is still a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll get them next time, but at least the weather was pretty favorable for the fans who made their way out there. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington. Alex?
A little chilly, but the sun came out.
Yeah, a little chilly. The sun did come out. The sun makes all the difference in the world, in my opinion, especially as you go into the early spring months. And speaking of spring, we have spring-like weather on the way, spring-like thunderstorms, as former Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti would say. Tuesday night going into Wednesday, strong to severe thunderstorms. Are keeping a close eye on this period for the potential of large hail. Damaging winds would be the main threats out of these thunderstorms. Late Tuesday night, more towards daybreak on Wednesday, going on through the daytime on Wednesday. So we'll break this down a little bit more with Future Track, but I want to relish in not a bad afternoon. 45 right now, upper 40s to the west in the Wisconsin River Valley. Still 45 at the airport, 47 in Middleton. The winds are not too terrible, so it'll be a beautiful evening for a stroll with clear skies, temperature staying in the upper 30s to the lower 40s through the late evening hours. Coming up in Maine weather, though, I'm going to break down alert day Tuesday night going to Wednesday into two parts. We'll do that in just a couple moments together. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Alex. We now know the name of the man stabbed to death over the weekend in Madison. The medical examiner says 40-year-old Nicholas C. Velasquez died at the scene of the stabbing on North Midvale Boulevard. Police say Velasquez's 17-year-old son allegedly stabbed him to death on Saturday morning after getting into an argument. The teenager is in jail facing a reckless homicide charge. Velasquez's official cause and manner of death are still pending.
Money for local governments and the departments that serve our communities can be somewhat challenging these days to come by.
News 3 Now's Kyle Pazorski shows us how the Oregon Police Department is getting creative with a new recruitment video and possibly saving money in the process.
Making a recruitment video for the digital age can cost a lot of money. So how do you do it while staying frugal? You do it yourself, of course. The Oregon Police Department did just that over the course of a year, making this video, complete with a voiceover from Chief Hagenkopf, beauty shots of the village, and what recruits of the police force may see if they get the job. Sergeant Jordan Colson put it all together, free of any outside charge.
The ideas that went behind it is that law enforcement's changing, and so as a department, we want to change with it to meet people where they're at. And a big way to do that is on social media now.
The chief's saying it's gotten great reception so far and has helped in their effort to keep the department's budget under control.
Not only did it save us a lot of money, because we're really trying to be careful with where we're spending money right now, but the outcome of the recruitment video has been great. It's actually showing who we are because it was created by someone who's been very successful within our department.
If going through an outside firm, the cost of something similar would range between $1,000 to $10,000. In Oregon, Kyle Pazorski, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Kyle. The Village of Oregon will have an operational referendum tomorrow, which, if passed, would allow for the hiring of 3 additional police officers. Well, next on Live at 4, a one-on-one with State Democratic Party Chair Ben Wickler.
Why he says the state Supreme Court elections that are supposed to be nonpartisan have become the opposite.
The president's advisor, tech billionaire Elon Musk, was in Wisconsin this weekend ahead of tomorrow's election. Musk held a rally in Green Bay where he presented 2 voters with million-dollar checks. The checks were part of a lottery Musk entered them into in exchange for signing a petition against so-called activist judges. Groups associated with Musk have been pouring millions of dollars into the state Supreme Court race against liberal-backed candidate Susan Crawford and in support of the conservative-backed candidate Judge Brad Schimmel.
Normally, an election for a judge would not be that big of a deal. It just so happens that in this case, it could decide the control of the U.S. House of Representatives, which is a huge deal.
I never could have dreamed that I'd be fighting the richest man in the world.
So we saw Musk there referring to the potential the state Supreme Court could receive a case on redrawing Wisconsin's congressional maps. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul filed a lawsuit against Musk for paying the voters, but the state's high court rejected the suit minutes before the rally.
The state Supreme Court race, of course, is supposed to be nonpartisan, but Wisconsin's Republican and Democratic parties have been receiving millions of dollars in support of their candidates. The parties and the candidates have broken the record now for the most expensive judicial race in the country. Ahead of Election Day tomorrow, we sat down with both state party leaders for whether they think this is how elections should be run in our state. And here is my one-on-one interview with Wisconsin Democratic Party Chairman Ben Wickler. Ben, thank you for joining us today.
It's great to be with you.
Well, this race is supposed to be officially nonpartisan, but both the state GOP and the Democratic parties have endorsed a candidate in this Supreme Court race. Why did Wisconsin Democrats endorse Susan Crawford?
As Democrats, it's core to our value system that everyone should receive equal justice under the law, whether you're the president or private citizen. We don't think that the MAGA politicians should be taking over the court system and banning abortion and giving Donald Trump and Elon Musk a pass no matter what laws they break. We think that that everyone should have their day in court. Now, Susan Crawford has been a public servant for her whole life. She's been a prosecutor ensuring public safety. She's led environmental enforcement. She defended voting rights and workers' rights and reproductive freedom when she was a lawyer. And she's the kind of person who makes a great Supreme Court justice. And that's very different from what we see with Brad Schimmel, who's really running as a MAGA politician, saying he'll be Trump's support network. And that's a choice that for the Democratic Party means that it's time for everyone to roll up their sleeves and try to elect Susan Crawford to the court.
This race has shattered spending records. It is now the most expensive judicial race ever. And the candidates on both sides have received millions of dollars in funding, notably from billionaires like Elon Musk, George Soros, and the like. Is this the way you think these races should be run?
Absolutely not. It is core to the Democratic Party of Wisconsin's platform, to the beliefs of most Wisconsinites, regardless of party, that we should have campaign finance reform. We should try to get big money out of politics. But until Republicans agree to try to change these laws, or Democrats win office and are able to change them on our own, we're going to have to try to fight in these elections for the principles of equal justice under the law, of freedom over our own bodies that we know are at stake in these races. Elon Musk has spent more than 10 times as much, as far as we can track, than any other donor on either side of this election, including the huge Stop the Steal MAGA donors, Dick and Liz Uihlein on the Republican side, who've given more than any Democratic donor in this race. Elon Musk, at the same time as he's pouring in tens of millions of dollars, is trying to dismantle Social Security, the university system in this country, the Veterans Administration, and he has his own case before the Wisconsin court system. That's something we've never seen before. And this kind of paints the picture for why it's so critical to overturn Citizens United, to end the system of big money in politics. And the only way to do that, unfortunately, at this moment, is for Democrats to fight with everything they've got to ensure that people who believe in people power instead of the power of money can win elective office.
You were the chairman of the Democratic Party when now Supreme Court Justice Janet Protasewicz won 2 years ago. What is similar about this race, in your opinion, and what's different this time around?
What's similar between now and 2023 is that Wisconsin has an 1849 abortion ban that's on the books that is currently not in effect. But what we don't know is if Brad Schimmel comes back in, we could be at risk of it snapping back into place to make abortion a felony punishable by 6 years in prison. That is something very similar, and that is probably the biggest issue in this race for many people. Something very different from 2023 is the role of Elon Musk and the wholesale assault on the kind of American system of government. Trump and Musk are ignoring courts and they're ignoring Congress. They're dismantling programs that people desperately rely on, like Social Security, going after healthcare, Medicaid, Medicare, the Postal Service, so much else. And that is really outside the Constitution. And they're trying to impeach federal justices that get in their way. Now they're reaching down to try to buy state Supreme Court justices like Brad Schimmel, who has campaigned openly as wanting to be Trump's support network in the courts. That is very different from 2023, and that creates a level of significance for this race that will ricochet across the country. Because if judges, if politicians all think that Elon Musk can come in and guarantee their victory through his giant fortune, then it distorts the fundamental idea of any shred of democracy in the United States of America. I think the whole country is watching right now to see whether the public can fight back against this kind of influence.
We greatly appreciate your time. Best of luck on Tuesday. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
In our next half hour, I sit down with the state GOP chair, Brian Schimming, to ask him the same questions.
We'll have both interviews, by the way, posted online at channel3000.com, and that's also where you can find all of our election coverage to make an informed decision before you head to the polls tomorrow. A reminder, the polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. Anyone in line by 8 o'clock will be allowed to vote. You can find your polling place at myvote.wi.gov, and that's where you'll also find what other races are on your ballot and see if you're registered. If you're not registered, you can do so in person tomorrow before you cast your ballot.
And here's what you'll need when you go to the polls tomorrow. Wisconsin law requires you to bring a valid photo ID in order to vote, and that can be a Wisconsin driver's license, a DOT-issued identification card, a passport, or a military ID card from the U.S. Uniformed Services.
Still to come on Live at 4, as Brady was just mentioning, we'll have our interview with the state GOP chairman.
Plus, what local business owners lost after a burglary.
At 4.
Well, we are starting the week out with some calm weather. Good news for our baseball fans, and people can recharge before tomorrow's election.
That's right, big day tomorrow. Calm before a big storm system are the weather words. Alex is out on the patio. Do you think that will affect Election Day, Alex?
It certainly could, especially after 6 o'clock tomorrow night. That's when precipitation is going to unfold across southern Wisconsin in the form first of wet snow. Winds are going to start ramping up, some slushy snow accumulations, and then alert day conditions turn over to severe thunderstorm chances late Tuesday night going on into Wednesday. The main threat from these thunderstorms late Tuesday night going on into Wednesday will be in the form of large hail and damaging winds. Coming up a little bit later in Maine weather, we're going to use Future Track to go through the whole storm system to show you from the snow to the transition over to the storms and when the best chances of storms will be. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center, and this is just a couple days out here, has a level 1 risk north and west of the Dells for severe weather, a level 2 risk for Madison, and then it's getting up there on the elevated side, a level 3 risk from Janesville over towards Elkhorn. Coming up in Maine weather, we're going to use Future Track to take you through the snow and through the storms and when we can expect it all to end in a few minutes.
All right, Alex, thank you. Well, the Brewers had their home opener today.
Should we just leave it at that?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about it, but despite a tough loss, yes, the fans were still out in full force to cheer them on. Eric Franke is live in Milwaukee at AmFam Field. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Brady, I think you said it very well. You know, we came here today, everybody had their tailgating game at its peak. They celebrated, of course, the life, the memory of Bob Uecker. It's a home opener, right? Milwaukee, everybody has fun, especially before the game. It's pretty much all the stuff that happened between the opening pitch and the ninth inning that you really want to forget on a day like this. The Brewers gave up 4 right out of the gate in the first 2 innings. They're dealing with a pitching staff that's kind of in pieces right now with injuries. But on top of it, they really couldn't hit the ball. And so they flirted with maybe one of the worst home losses ever in a Milwaukee home opener, 11-1 the final here. And we'll have more on the highlights with Zach Hanley next hour. But as for the fans, well, despite the slow start of the season in New York, we talked to them before the game. They always look forward to everything that comes with the home opener here in Milwaukee.
It feels like Christmas morning, man, unwrapping some gifts. You wake up early in the morning, you can't go to sleep at night, you want to just come to the game and watch the game and hang out with family. Everybody that's a Brewers fan is family.
So it's opening day, we are all from Milwaukee, and we are obviously coming out to support the Brewers on opening day. There's nothing like opening day. Would you guys agree?
I would agree.
And we would all agree opening day.
Oh my God, it's so much fun. We're having a great time. My first time here too.
First time for opening day!
Go Brewers! We're hoping for a win.
We have 162 games of the whole entire season. Before playoffs come, I think we're good.
Before the playoffs come, optimism running high. We should mention that was, I think, most of those interviews we did before the end of the first inning. And you can obviously see that the folks were having a good time in the pregame festivities. But 0-4 is the start for the Brewers, an 11-1 loss here. By the way, last year they went to New York. They swept the Mets in New York to start the year. They were 4-0. This year, 0-4, and a work in progress, to say the least. As I mentioned, Zach Henley will join us. He is live here as well, and we will have the highlights of this game, if you can bear them. And we'll have more on the festivities here at American Family Field. Brady, Susan, back to you.
All right, Eric. Well, there's a lot of season still to come, right? Let's try to put a positive spin on it. Everybody had a blast.
Very optimistic take, Susan. They did.
We'll see you at 5. Thank you.
Until the game.
You can find our coverage of the home opener on channel3000.com and with the free Channel 3000 mobile app. That's also where you'll find the Brewers' full season schedule.
Well, a burglary at a jewelry shop on Madison's west side has left the business owner without some high-end pieces and uncertain of her shop's future.
Armand Rahman spoke to her about what's next.
Normally, this jewelry store on Madison's west side would have opened at 10 a.m. on Monday, but after a break-in over the weekend, owners say they need some time to rebuild. Rosalina Perez, the owner of Joyeria y Regalos Rossi, says while the business was closed Sunday, someone cut this hole into the back wall of the building with a chainsaw. They stole several high-end pieces of jewelry only from the back. Perez has owned the store for about 2 years, selling and repairing jewelry as well as other gifts. She says her customers are her top priority. Her daughter says she isn't sure what comes next after this.
She's worked really hard for this. We as a family, we don't wish bad on whoever did this. We have a lot of faith in God, and we're very sure that we'll get up from this because it was definitely a really hard hit.
The case was assigned to Madison Police Department's Burglary Crimes Unit. Perez is still working with investigators to identify and price everything that was stolen. The owner and her family says what hurt most is that most of the items that were taken belonged to customers that they were waiting to get repairs, customers that they said have become friends. I'll have more on that tonight at 6. For now, reporting in Madison, Armand Rahman, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Armand. Well, coming up on Live at 4, a one-on-one with State GOP Party Chair Brian Schimming.
What Schimming said when we asked him about Elon Musk's role in the race for state Supreme Court when we come back.
Well, tomorrow, Wisconsinites will go to the polls to vote in a series of races. On every person's ballot, the race for state Supreme Court justice. Despite being nonpartisan, both the Democratic and Republican parties are funneling millions of dollars into each candidate's campaigns, making it the most expensive judicial race in American history. Earlier, Susan sat down for a one-on-one with the state Democratic Party chair, Ben Wickler, and I talked with the state GOP chair, Brian Schimming, and asked him the same questions. Well, Brian Schimming, thanks for being on with us today.
Great to be here.
Yeah, well, let's start with the basics. So both the state GOP and Democratic parties have endorsed candidates in the Supreme Court race, even though it's supposed to be nonpartisan. So why do you think Wisconsin Republicans are backing candidate Brad Schimmel in this race?
I think the truth of it is Brad, former Republican attorney general, but also just common sense judge, very, very effective attorney general. And there's a huge contrast between these two candidates. Brad Schimmel respects the Constitution, respects where the court's role is. It's not to be a second legislature, but to call balls and strikes. Whereas his opponent, Susan Crawford, is a very, very liberal, lenient judge, and we think that offers who thinks that they ought to legislate from the bench, and so we look forward to that contrast.
And there is a lot of interest in this race. Already this race has shattered spending records, and it's now the most expensive judicial race ever. So, of course, Democrats and Republicans have received millions in funding for this race, both of them, notably from both billionaire donors like George Soros and Elon Musk. Why do you think billionaires have taken such a big interest in this race? And is this just the way these races are now, getting huge donors, billionaire donors like these?
Well, these races are always getting more expensive. What's different on this race is that the left, the liberals in this state, have been taking tens of millions of dollars for years to fund state Supreme Court races. They're upset now because the other side is catching up. It's that simple.
And it does appear that people are paying a lot of attention to Elon Musk because he is an advisor to President Trump. And there's been some criticism of Elon Musk putting money into this race, especially with the potential a case of his could ultimately make its way before the Supreme Court justices. That's he and Tesla are suing to overturn a Wisconsin state law that prevents companies like Tesla from opening its own dealerships. So what is your response to that?
My response is the difference between these candidates is that Brad Schimmel knows enough to when to recuse from a case and to look at that issue fairly about whether he ought to recuse. Yet on the other hand, Susan Crawford won't make those kind of assurances, especially when cases like voter ID or Governor Scott Walker's Act 10 reforms come up. So I think the difference is Brad Schimmel knows when to recuse. Susan Crawford does not.
So for voters who might worry that Musk is trying to buy this race for his own interest, you don't think Brad Schimmel can be bought?
No, I don't. I'm quite sure Brad Schimmel. I've known him personally for a long time. His integrity is important to him, and that's the reputation he has. Frankly, it's part of the reason why you look at current endorsements from sheriffs and past sheriffs. 80 current sheriffs and past sheriffs have endorsed Brad Schimmel. Only one for Susan Crawford. That ought to send voters a message.
Finally, what do you think is at stake from the Republicans' perspective in this election? And do you think that this election could be a litmus test to see how Wisconsin voters are feeling about national politics as well?
Yeah, I never put a lot into litmus test and off-year elections because polling goes back and forth. And so there's, very seldom a direct correlation, or at least that I've seen over the years, between off-year elections. So that's pretty hard to say. But I will say that, all the attention to Wisconsin is largely because the Democrats and the left wing has nationalized the race, and they did that by openly talking about how throwing out 2 Republican congressional seats in Wisconsin is their goal. They had a call a couple of months ago where the state chair of the Democratic Party was on the call with Susan Crawford talking about that. And then just in the last several days, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat minority leader in the House, openly admitted that that was what it was about. So they've nationalized the race. As a result, a lot of resources come in. So what happens in Wisconsin on Tuesday will not stay in Wisconsin.
Brian Schimming, thank you for being on with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you can watch our interviews with both state party chairs on our website, channel3000.com.
And that's where you'll also find all of our pre-election coverage, including political reporter Will Keneally's interviews with the Supreme Court candidates themselves.
Coming up on Live at 4, Alex tells us when we can expect alert day conditions tomorrow.
Plus, the Merrimack Ferry is now open. We'll hear from ferry goers on why they chose to take the trip today. Well, another sign of spring, the Merrimack Ferry is back open for 2025.
Makes you hopeful for warmer days, doesn't it? The DOT operates the service seasonally to carry Wisconsin Highway 113 traffic across the Wisconsin River between Okie and Columbia County and Merrimack in Sauk County. We caught up with a few ferry goers today about why they chose to take the journey.
So it's very nice, very relaxing.
No, I'm from Madison. I come up here just to ride the ferry.
It's fun for the kids to do and to go to the different ice cream shops that are around and just to ride it and get to see the lake and all the scenery.
The ferry is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and a single crossing takes about 7 minutes. I do the same thing sometimes. I drive up there just to take the ferry.
I've never done that. That's on my list of things to do, Alex. When's a good day for that?
You can sneak it in tomorrow before the alert day conditions unfold across southern Wisconsin. Otherwise, once we get past Wednesday, our weather conditions improve. But I got a lot to cover here. Tuesday night going into Wednesday, strong thunderstorms, some severe, will be the main focus of our alert day conditions, with hail and wind being the primary threats. But we got to get through some wintry precipitation first before the severe weather that takes hold during the daytime on Wednesday. I should say daybreak on Wednesday through the afternoon hours. Don't want to shy away at this risk here. It's still 2 days out. When you already have a level 2 and a level 3 out of 5 risk, that's been presented by the Storm Prediction Center. It really means business. You need to be tuning in to the First Warn Weather Team tomorrow for the very latest on this weather system. Here's how it starts to unfold with future track. Snow first. Wet snow mixed in with heavy rain, strong winds. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, 6, 7 o'clock. That continues through the late overnight hours, especially for areas north of Madison. Strong winds, and we turn over to all water. At 5, I'm going to show you how much water and how much snow we can expect out of this first part of alert day conditions. It's as we get into 6 o'clock on Wednesday morning. See this darker green and some yellows. Scattered thunderstorms throughout much of the day on Wednesday. At 6 o'clock, I'm going to be telling you about how the temperatures impact the potential for redevelopment of thunderstorms later Wednesday afternoon going into the evening. And it's those storms, if we get warm enough, that could present the tornado threat. And hopefully that does not materialize. Good news is this is not going to be a late night severe weather threat for southern Wisconsin. This is going to be a daytime severe weather threat. Break it down. Part 1, Tuesday night, rain, wet, snow first, thunderstorms towards daybreak on Wednesday. Those storms likely presenting themselves with hail and strong winds. If warm enough, an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out, but we certainly don't need the severe weather. Good stuff, though, tonight. Clear, calm, temperatures in the mid to upper 20s to right around 30. Fairly close to normal for this time of year. And we'll do mid 40s to near 50 as those clouds on the increase out ahead of the alert day conditions. Again, coming up at 5, we're going to show you how much precip and how much snow you can expect with alert day conditions Tuesday night going into Wednesday. And after that, a pretty beautiful stretch. We'll be right back in a moment.
Thanks for watching Live at 4 today, everyone. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow for our Election Day coverage here on News 3. News 3 now at 5 starts right after this.